We're back today with Dr. David Runner at Muncie Memorial United Methodist Church, and we're going to talk today about the fugue. As you know, we've talked about Baroque music and how Baroque music is often polyphonic, and the fugue is sort of the ultimate polyphonic texture. So what happens in a fugue is very similar to what happens in a round like Row, Row, Row Your Boat, where you have a theme that comes in again and again and again, and it builds on itself and makes its own harmony. But a fugue is a bit more sophisticated than Row, Row, Row Your Boat. In fact, we don't even call them themes when we talk about a fugue. We call it a subject, and we have a counter subject, and we have lots of other fancy words that we use in the middle. But basically what I'd like for you to be able to recognize when you hear a fugue is to listen for that opening theme or that subject. And it tends to travel through different, what we would call different voices, even though we're not singing. It might start, say, in the soprano, and then might go down to the alto, and then down to the tenor. And it'll be the same every time it starts. So you can listen for that as a fugue is being played. And that's a really good way to sort of find your place in a fugue, because if you don't know to listen for that, you'll just get completely lost, because there'll be so many things happening at some point that you won't know where you are. And that's kind of the beauty of the fugue. And usually at the end of a fugue, there's sort of a, usually there's just like a big pause, because it's like you have all these lines going, and the only way to get them to all come together at the end is to just sort of stop and then go a big ending. So if you hear that kind of ending, you might think you have heard a fugue. So the organ is a great instrument for the fugue, because you've got multiple keyboards plus the feet, so you can really pass that fugue around. So we're going to ask Dr. Runner again to play for us a bit of a fugue. This is by Bach, I think. Yes, a Bach fugue. Bach is the master of the fugue. In fact, he wrote a whole book about it. So now let's listen as he plays a fugue for us. I'd like to thank Dr. David Runner for playing organ for us again today and demonstrating the fugue for us. I hope you enjoyed his fancy footwork. That's my favorite part of any organ performance. I'm going to give you some examples of fugues to listen to so you can practice listening for all the different entrances of the subject, so you can feel much more comfortable when you go to a concert and you hear a fugue played.